Hey, you, how are you? Welcome to the Be It Till You See It podcast. Welcome back. If you've been here before, I hope you've been having fun listening to all of these interviews. Um, I kind of have to pinch myself every time I get to do an interview with someone because it doesn't feel real. I actually have been wanting to do a podcast for years. If you've been listening to some of the recaps Brad and I talk about, we've been wanting to do them for a long time, and now we're like in it. And I think it's really, the be it till you see it motto is it's challenging because it feels a little fake and can feel a little cognitive dissonant, if that's a word. And I want you to know that like you're not lying to yourself. You're acting as if, right? And so you're just stepping into that place. And so if you are struggling on some days being it till you see it versus other days, just know that on those days you're doing it. And on the other days, it's a vacation. It's a day off. But I do hope you continue to see yourself in other people's stories in these interviews. And if something sticks with you, if something perks your interest, if something like makes you go, what is that? You're going to love this interview because Tina Tang is our guest this week. And well, I don't want to give away what her action step is, but you will love it. And it is so interesting and it's pretty against the grain. And I'm excited about that. But Tina's interview is amazing. You're going to see so much vulnerability, hear so much vulnerability. You can see it on YouTube. So, but you'll hear it if you're listening to this on your walk with your doggos. She's had a journey and she's had a life, and it hasn't been all roses and unicorns and glitter like no one's has, right? And I think it's really easy for us to see people on Instagram, see trainers or see influencers of some kind and think, oh, it must be nice, or it must be, like it's so easy for them. But what I love about this interview is you hear that it's not easy. Actually, none of it is. But what we learn from each thing that we do is really important and really incredible. And it takes us on this place. And so I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope you do too. And you can hear more about Tina not only in this podcast, but you can go into the show notes, check out her incredible career journey. So for those of you who are like, I feel like I'm bopping around from thing to thing, that is divine, and it's a divine appointment. And I think you'll really enjoy that. She started as a Goldman Sachs person, and then she owned jewelry stores, and now she's an incredible trainer. And so I really wanted to have her on for those of you who are thinking of doing the next thing, trying to leap into something, and you're wondering, what will people say? Well, guess what? It doesn't really matter what they say, but that's a spoiler alert. You'll get to listen to this whole podcast right after this message. Welcome to the Be It Till You See It podcast, where we talk about taking messy action, knowing that perfect is boring. I'm Lesley Logan, Pilates instructor and fitness business coach. I've trained thousands of people around the world, and the number one thing I see stopping people from achieving anything is self-doubt. My friends, action brings clarity, and it's the antidote to fear. Each week, my guests will bring bold, executable, intrinsic, and targeted steps that you can use to put yourself first and be it till you see it. It's a practice, not a perfect. Let's get started. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Be It Till You See It with Tina Tang. Oh my gosh. Okay, y'all, my friend Erica Quest, who's been a guest on the show, talks about divine appointments, and I feel like this is one of them. I don't know that we ever would have met had it not been for a mastermind that we are in together. But what's so funny is she and I share this like love for jewelry, and also I think in a past life before the recession, we may have actually even been working a lot in the same industry and not even known it. So it's just really funny. So Tina, I'm so glad you're here. Will you tell everyone who you are and what you're up to?
Yeah. So my name is Tina Tang, and how I like to describe myself is I'm a fit at 50 strength coach, because I got into strength training, in midlife. So that's why I guess I always like to point out age, because people don't like to think about their age, but I think it's wonderful to celebrate age, especially as you're working on, I guess, being a stronger person.
Yeah, I love that you said that fit at 50. I also just feel like when is midlife anymore? Because, people are living till they're 100. I just watched, there's an Olympics for like people who are in their like 100 years old. There's like an actual like race, and there was a 102-year-old who was doing a 100-yard dash, and I actually think they might run faster than me. I actually it was really impressive. So like, I find it I do understand, like, there's such a weird thing about age, and it's so strange because I feel like it doesn't really mean anything anymore, but for whatever reason it does mean things, in our lives.
Yeah. There's one thing that I live like in powerlifting, and I think actually in some other strength competitions, when you're 50 and older, you're called the master. And I'm okay with that name. I like it. This is the masters.
Yes. Oh my, yes. I love that. That's better than like silver sneakers, which is like something that I really struggle with, because I'm like, but what if you die? Like, I will forever have red roots dyed. I will always have my roots dyed because, y'all, this is not my real hair color. So, well, anyways, so you got into fitness later in life, and, I love that, because I think so often people think, oh, it's too late for me. Oh, like starting anything new is so hard. Can you talk about like what prompted you to get started, and how did you overcome the idea of like starting later in your life? Which is still early, y'all, in life, but just for the context of this. Yeah.
It's what I think sometimes whenever we make a change or transition, it's because we're in some kind of uncomfortable place, right? When I did a career switch, but for strength training, I was going through a divorce at that time, and it was a very difficult divorce. So I would leave my apartment to not be lonely, and I would actually go to the local gym, and I wasn't a gym rat. It was just somewhere across the street that I could go, and I was like, oh, I'll try taking classes. And in those classes, when I started strength training, like, because the classes they're kind of hit, but it had a lot of strength elements, and I'd always be asking the teacher questions like, well, how do you do this, and why are we doing that? And that's how I got started. I mean, I eventually ended up taking a personal training course, but for self-enrichment, but that's how it started, just being in a position that was uncomfortable, and me just trying to figure stuff out for myself.
So that's, you're so right. I think that we so badly want to get out of pain, that like we're so focused on getting out of the pain, and like, why am I in this situation? And I can think of all the things that I'm so grateful for right now came out of those uncomfortable moments of like wanting to get out. And I think, it's so easy for us to want to like save our friends from something that's terrible, or our family members, or I don't have a kid, but I see parents like really worrying about like the mistakes their kids can make. And like, obviously there's some things we don't want them to make, but like at the same time, like you can't really take away people's like rock bottoms, or cause like that's kind of where like beauty grows from,
Yeah, that is very true. Yeah, it's hard sitting in those moments where you have to just be, whether you're feeling down or like you say, or in pain, but without going through it, you can't really heal. I know that sounds so squishy, but it's always easier saying it after you've been through it. You're like, oh yeah, I needed that.
Right. But like, I understand why, like, cause it's like, oh, of course they'd say that because they're on the other side. But like when you're in it, it's true, you're in it, but you got curious and you're like lonely and you wanted to get out of the house, and there was a gym. And so you took that first next step without being a gym rat, what was that like the first time? Like you're like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym. Was it uncomfortable? Was it weird? Were you excited about it?
It is uncomfortable. And I think a lot of women feel that way, especially there's that part of the gym where you see the giant dumbbells or even the barbells. So I think that's why a lot of women probably take classes. It's a nice transition where you feel like you're guided. There's other women around. And then I guess in figuring out how you can go to the next levels when it gets scary. That's why I actually took it was like an intensive personal training course, because I was like, I want to know how to use all the stuff that we don't use in class, like the scary part of the gym. And unexpectedly, it's what kind of launched me into my fitness career. But yes, it is scary going to that part. And then once you have a little bit of guidance, because I think sometimes when we're younger teenage boys might lift together, but teenage girls were not.
They don't really. No, I was in sports. No one, I went to the gym because I had been studying some other runners, and I heard them talk about what they did at the gym. And I'm like, wait, they don't just run, they do other things. And it was like, so I did a lot of stuff to strengthen my whole body, because when you're running, it's like great strong legs, and then like your upper body is like dwindling. And so it's true, but no one, like I was one of few girls that were there. And the other women that were there, I remember at my gym when I was a teenager in high school, they were like these big power lifters, like 80 stuff, like just like it was the whole thing. And I was like, oh, that doesn't look fun for me. But now I know differently, and I judge it in a completely different way, and I love to lift weights, but it was such an interesting, there wasn't anyone there, to make me feel comfortable, because it just wasn't a lot of women doing it. So
yeah,
have you always been that kind of curiosity? Like, is that something, because I wonder about, were you always someone who's like, oh, I'm really interested in this. Okay, now I'll go do this. Or is it just something that because of the situation you're in, you got curious and then you wanted to know more?
I think I would never categorize myself as like extreme curiosity person, but I think if I'm interested in something, I'll go try it out. I won't necessarily know what it might turn into, but I'll take a class or check it out, or even if it's a book or a podcast, whatever. I want to take a little dip my toe in, but I think that's natural for people. I think it's just going in without expectations.
I actually, because I used to think that maybe I wasn't a curious enough person, which is, it's my own.
What?
my recovering overachiever at work, y'all. Like, this is literally, you can understand why it's recovering overachiever and not recovered, because I'm like, maybe I'm not curious enough. I wonder how I get more curious. And I would like watch like detective shows. I'm like, how are they so like, why are they thinking, you know what I mean? And it's, I think a lot of it is actually just being present versus not being present. I think that general curiosity as human beings happens just when you're present versus not, and like kind of going deeper than the statement or the judgment of your thoughts.
Wait, that's so on point. I think we all are curious, but then it's the thing that might stop us is the judgment. Like we're self-judging, like, oh, I can't do that, or I'm not good at that, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then we stop ourselves.
100%. And I know that, so you're a trainer now. And so basically later in life, you started to going to the gym because you were looking to be around some people and the classes were fun. And then out of curiosity, you took a training, but now you train women. And, I think a lot of people, like I grew up with a family where my parents are still doing the same job that they did. Like, well, my dad's retired, but like my mom's been a teacher. She's been a teacher forever. Right. And I've been an applies teacher for 14 years, but like within being an applies teacher, then I got the business coaching, and now I've got this, and now I'm running this company. And it's like, I think a lot of people struggle with that whole, like, well, most of the people they ever saw just did one thing. And then there's this like judgment around, well, I'm supposed to find my one thing. And, but you, like, you had this amazing jewelry company, and now you have an amazing training business. What was it like for you to switch careers, and what was the impetus? Like, what drew you to becoming a trainer?
Oh, that's so, again, it's like situation and uncomfortable situation. So let's see, I had my jewelry stores in Manhattan, and then that's when I was starting to go through the divorce. And then 2008 happened, the financial crisis. Oh. And you remember this for also when you were in retail.
We were both in retail at the same time. Yeah. So you owned shops and I was managing them. And it was, you could see it. You could like see the writing on the wall. This is not going well for us.
Yeah. You know what was so interesting, Lesley, is at that time, it was like 2008. And then I think not on purpose, that was the rise of Amazon too. Yeah. So it was like people were shopping online and there was a financial crisis. Yeah. And that was like a double whammy for brick and mortar. Oh yeah. So at that time, I was like, okay, let me just downsize. I'll just have like a small booth within, I don't know if you know, in New York City, there was a place called Limelight. It became like a little.
Oh, was it like a mall without walls? Because that's what Fred Siegel was. I used to work at Fred Siegel, and it was like 50 stores, but no walls.
It's actually in an old church.
Cool.
No walls. Yeah.
So cool.
And that's when I had taken the personal training intensive. It was like several weekends long. And then it was actually with Equinox. And they're like, oh, if you're interested, it was a feeder into their gym. So like, oh, you can always apply to be a personal trainer at the same time. So somewhere in my mind, I was like, oh, I could do both. I could run my jewelry company and then also do training. which is actually not. To make one thing grow, you can't do two separate things.
I'll tell you, I thought the same thing. I was like, I'll become a Pilates instructor on the side to pay for my Pilates habit, and I'll run this jewelry store over here. And then what ends up happening is like one of them is going to take more of your time.
Yes.
And I got so busy teaching, I had to downsize my time at the jewelry store, and then that wasn't going to work. So I just ended up quitting, and it was like, I was like, whoa, this is not the plan.
Exactly. That's how it is. Like funny how life is like you're trying one thing you didn't expect to go in this direction, but it's kind of like you tried it, and then your passions are bringing you there. Or at that time, your interest is going that way. Like you were transitioning out of the retail and being in that business for so long. Yeah, that's totally it. Yeah. Unpredictable.
So did you end up working for them? Is that what ended up happening?
I did. Yeah. So I was at Equinox for about 3 years, and it's a great place to start as a young trainer because they do educate people.
Yeah.
They don't pay well, but they educate you.
Yeah. Well, I always tell people if you're in the States or they're also in London, and you have the opportunity, it is a great way to learn how to run your own business because you have to get new clients, but they're all in a box. They're all right there. You just have to stand there and smile,
Did you work there for a little bit or you?
I worked there for 6 years.
Oh,
7 years.
Right. That's what I thought. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I started there in 2009. I left in 2016. So just like 2 months shy of being exactly on the dot. But yeah, I think it's if you are afraid of talking to people on the street about your business, it's a great place to get warmed up and get started. I think some of the things that hold people back from doing the next thing is like what people will say, like, how people perceive it. Like, what if it doesn't work? How is that for you? Like, was everyone excited for you? Did you have people going, what are you doing, Tina? Like,
I'll tell you, when before doing jewelry, I worked at Goldman Sachs. I was a trader. And when I didn't tell my parents I was thinking of quitting. I had just called them like after I quit and like, hey, just letting you know, I quit Goldman Sachs and was completely silent on the phone. Like so silent. I thought maybe I lost connection, hello. So I think it's hard. And also in describing like being a trainer, when I had been divorced and started dating, I even went out with someone who said, oh, I hesitated contacting you because you were a trainer. So I figured you would not be, I guess he figured I might not be very smart to talk to. So,
oh my God, what a jerk. And also like he needs to meet more people,
I think, yeah. I think there's just going to be always some kind of judgment. Yeah. And he needs to meet more people.
I mean, that's just that's on him and a loss for him. Cause he, but also maybe you surprise him and change the stereotype around how like smart people are. Some of the smartest people I know are trainers. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so obviously parents were not super excited about quitting Goldman Sachs. So have your own jewelry stores, which are very successful because you had multiple. But so how did they take you? Because I think a lot of people like their parents' opinion or thoughts like really do keep them from doing that next thing, or even just like their friends. And so how did they take it when you're like, okay, I'm a trainer now? Like, had you worn them down? Like, were they like, all right, she's obviously just doing her own dance? Or is there excitement? Are they excited that you're a trainer? How's it going?
Oh, I'm not sure. Remember, these are Asian parents. I'll give you a story, Lesley. I was visiting them last year. This is like a little bit pre-COVID. We went out to lunch, to somewhere where only old Chinese people would go. And they saw some friends. The friends came over to our lunch table. And my mom's like, this is my homeless daughter, Tina, because I rent. I don't own a house, so I'm homeless. Oh. So I think it's just sometimes you're just never going to be
You're
what someone
right.
wants you to be.
And thank you for sharing that story. And I'm sure people are like, oh my God, these women's parents, but at the same time, like they are who they are.
At the same time, they did say,
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Oh, and I was gonna say, and then she added on, my other daughter, Dr. Tang, is whatever my sister was doing. So it's kind of like, you're just gonna have.
But again, I'm so glad you're sharing this story because like it hasn't stopped you from going after what you are passionate about right now. And we aren't going to please everybody.
No. Yeah. I
So
mean, it is really hard I think, especially when parents don't, because, no matter, even if like I'm 50, I still am like, oh, how come my sister's birthday cards, my mom always make it to the wall and mine doesn't, mine don't. But
yeah.
I learned that she likes a certain kind of card. Hallmark cards are her love language.
Okay. So I guess like how have you like how have you reconciled that so that you don't, whether it's your parents or anyone else, how do you reconcile that so other people's opinions of what you're doing don't stop you from doing it?
Oh, I don't know if there's a formula. I think I just, because I want to do it, so I just do. And then sometimes, I think it's very human to sometimes question, like, oh, if I had stayed with XYZ, would I be somewhere different? But, we just have different paths.
Yeah. No, you're 100% correct. And I think I'm so glad you're sharing this because I just know that our listeners, like, they have this dream, but somebody questions it and it puts a doubt in their mind. And I think it's like, our friends and family, their questions of doubt has so much to do with them than it does with us.
Yes. Yes. Actually, that's a really good point. So, like, for my parents, their judgy is because they fled a war-torn country. So for them, it's like security is a kind of job that has nothing to do with passion, but just straight up financial security. So yeah, anything they think is completely related to uh, their own issues. Exactly. And that's the hard thing, I think, to try to reconcile for, like, oh, anytime someone says something to you or they make a comment about the way you look, it's really like a reflection of what's going on inside them. And we just have to remind ourselves that.
Right. Right. And that's the hardest thing, because especially if the thing that they hit was something that you're already self-conscious about,
Yes.
that can be that can be, I was talking with my therapist about something and she's like, she said, it was a situation and she's like, well, you being you triggered something in her and that is her thing.
Yeah.
And you have your things, but that is her thing. And I was like, oh, that is true. That is her thing. And so when people are being themselves and you being yourself trigger something in them, it is kind of okay to go. And that's her thing and that's their thing. And that it makes sense that they would think those things because they what they know, they fought so hard, and they're like, this is what security is. And they don't know that there can be security in so many other things, So
Yes.
I want to talk about women working out and getting strong, and your passion is women over 40 or over 50? Who do you work with?
Over 40, but I think a lot because I'm 50, like, I understand especially going through menopause, I might even be post-menopause right now officially, but knowing these struggles, in knowing these struggles, I see even more so how important strength training is, at least starting in your 40s. Because sometimes by 50, when there's a statistic that sticks out in my head, it's 67% of women in their 50s have either osteoporosis or low bone mass. And that really sticks out in my head. I'm like, oh, that means also that in order to not be that, you'll have started some kind of weight bearing exercise before that age. So over 40s, over 50s.
Awesome. So what do you think? Obviously for so many reasons, bone health and just general health is great. And that's why you should strength training. But like, what do you see most change when women start to lift weights and work out? Like, do you see changes in how they see themselves? Do you see changes in how they engage or go after things? Like, what are some of the other byproducts besides like being strong or strengthening your bones?
That's such a you question. I love it. It really is, because especially since we are coaches, we see it. I can tell you. Let's see. I have a couple clients that are in their mid 50s, and they recently got to their first push up. So literally, they're like, I feel like I'm 7, and telling my mom like, oh my God, I did it. So I think it's just like this excitement and of. Because it's something unexpected. They never thought they could do that in their 50s because they never did it before. So it's like surprise at how at what they could do, even at an age where it seems like you can't really, you're just going downhill. Like technically people think
That's
it's
what they
going
tell us. That's
downhill.
what all the media tells us. We're going downhill after a certain age,
Yeah.
and they stop selling you anything. They stop. Everyone over 50, you're not going to get those ads anymore for clothes or anything.
Yeah, it's like, hello, this is where the spending money's at.
Yes. Oh, there's a woman that I'm hoping to interview soon. She has a whole newsletter on products and businesses about that are actually directed towards women over 40.
Oh, that's so awesome.
It's really cool.
I can't wait to hear that.
I know. I got to get the information. I wish I could shout her out right now, but I don't have all of it. I'm excited about talking with her. But it's such an interesting thing that there are so many women in that age group that is where the expendable income, is that the right word? Like extra income is. And people, very few people target it, and they just go, oh, whatever, you've reached a certain age. And so you just like, it's, I love that they do a push up and they're celebrating, because it is so true. Like we think because we haven't done it, we can't do it, but it's actually like, well, it's because you haven't done it that you can't do it. It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
So, I want to just touch base a little bit on anyone who might be like going through a divorce or ending something, they might have lost their job, something like that, because they're all very similar.
Yeah.
What was it aside from like, was it the working out that helped you with that? Or like, what was it that helped you kind of like get over that experience in your life? Like what was going through your head that you're just like, how did you feel about yourself? And then how did you get yourself to where you are?
First of all, anyone that's listening that's getting a divorce or divorced, congratulations. I know none of us want to hear when we're going through it. Nobody wants to hear, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, no, congratulations. It's a new stage in your life. And I have to say, it is probably for most people, at least for me, is one of the darkest times. So in assuming that you're going to get through it smoothly unless it was a very short marriage, like a quick mistake kind of thing, like, oh, we should get married. Oh, never mind. I think it's going to be the darkest time in most people's lives, which is okay, because then you come out eventually on the other side. You feel sad, you feel loss, you question, like, what was I thinking when I made that choice? But at that time when you said yes and wanted to, it was right. It was right, and all the things aligned with you and this other person at that time. And then just whatever it was, the reasons, the paths that we went through just kind of diverged. So I think, for women, this is going to be most relevant since we have such a good support system. I would not have gotten through that without my best friend. I think I even stayed with her in her apartment for a month during that time. I know I went to the gym and everything, but yeah, I think it's just your social support of having an unjudging friend. And most friends, I think best friends are not going to judge. They're there for everything.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I do think it's like, I feel for people who go through it, because there's just so much that the outside world puts on us about a divorce. Like it's a failure, or it's like how could you let this happen? You must have done something. And it's like, why we don't look at them as successes, and like that was the length of relationship and you did all of that with that person, and now it's like, the next stage. And I am always impressed, and I think I fall into this like in an interesting way. Like when I hear people like, my friend just celebrated 25 years of marriage, I was like, that is amazing. But like, it's also amazing if you had a 10-year marriage and it ended. Like it's still an incredible time to be. So I think it's great for us to acknowledge that it's a celebration, that you're on this next journey. And also like I love that you said, lean into your support system. I think we withdraw. I think when we, and I don't know if it's embarrassment or, just thinking that people might say something that we have no idea what's going on in their minds. But I know when I left my ex, thankfully, I had a few people in my life whose couches I could stay on, which is very helpful, because it's hard to untangle and unweave a life you had with someone to get going on the next thing. It's not like you just go, okay, I made this decision and I can do the next thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Because there is like, it's like even, and then I'm sure you think, but now like when you look back at the relationship, you're like, oh God, that seemed like a different person too,
Right. Both people. No, I share this a lot with people when they go through any kind of a breakup, or like they leave a job that they're like, this is like the worst thing for me. It's like, I remember I had a different therapist at the time, and I had quit her during my relationship, and I called her up when I left him, and I was like, I got into the meeting, I said, okay, you can just say I told you so. And she said, well, I won't say that. She's like, because I had no idea what was going to happen. She's like, but you have to ask yourself, like, what were the red flags you ignored in the beginning, right? Because there were signs that you ignored, and so what were those? And then you just have to ask, that way when you go dating or you go looking for another job or whatever it is, you just ask yourself, like, how red is this flag? Is it orange? Is it yellow? Yeah. And you can like pull the strings. Like I remember I was on a date and somebody said something. I was like, ooh, red flag. But instead of just judging it, I said, oh, tell me more about that. Explain that to me. What is that? And so I got to learn so much more about myself in that. And then also I can see why the me before said yes to those things. And I can see why the me before went into that relationship. And I can see why the me before stayed in that relationship, because like we forget that we were someone else. Like we are constantly changing. We're constantly learning.
Yeah, it's true. Like, or whatever it was at that time in your life, you needed that, whatever that energy was or what they did and stuff. Like with my ex-husband, I wouldn't have had jewelry stores without him, because he was an electrician who could build. He was like a union electrician. So he built out most of my stores. So I wouldn't have done that without him. You know what I mean?
Oh, I wouldn't have written my book without my ex, because he was one who's like, you have to write this book. And I was like, I'm not an author.
Really?
Like, who would read a book for me? Yeah.
Yeah. So we made the right decision. We needed that at that moment in our lives.
Yeah. Everyone, like, everything is happening for us, and it's all part of it. And it's easier to connect the dots when you're on the other side. It's a lot harder when you're in it. So it's just like,
yes.
So I'm just so grateful for you sharing the story. I really think that like, you're living such a full life, and you are exploring, and you're what you're passionate about, and that's becoming like, and that's the world you live in. I think it's really cool, Tina. I wonder, like, what are you excited about now? Like, what are you working on right now that's getting you excited?
Oh, I have I'm trying to think of the way to describe it. It's an online strength class community that I founded with actually someone we met also through our business coach. So we co-founded it together, and it's basically live strength classes and a community called Straight Up Strong. And we just, it's our 1 year anniversary, and I'm really excited to keep it growing, because it's just really fun to watch all these women. And I think our average age is like women, they're around 47. Like if you average out everybody, just getting stronger and doing all this stuff at home and feeling really good about themselves. So I think that's what I'm most excited about right now.
Oh, that's so beautiful. We had on I guessed Sandra Chuma, and her father had said, your success will mean nothing if you don't bring people with you. And
I love that.
Isn't that so good? And so when you share just knowing you and how passionate you're about bringing these women along and helping them strengthen, you bring them in a group together, like it just made me think of that. Like, like because of how you're doing with these women in a group, like it's just, your success is like unstoppable because of like you're bringing people with you on this journey.
Can I have you in my back pocket so you can tell me good stuff like that all the time?
Yeah, this is recorded, so you can replay.
That's why we're all listening to this.
So fun. Okay, where can people find you? Where can they stalk you? Where can they work out with you?
Oh, I love it. On Instagram, I'm Iron Strong Fit. And then my group classes, you can find on Instagram or on the website, but it's called Straight Up Strong. So that's the Instagram handle, or the website is straightupstrong.com.
Love that so much. Okay, so we ask every guest, because I love people's stories. I think they're super inspiring. Like there's lots of good stuff here. And then if people are sitting and taking notes, I'm sure they got some good things. But just in case, they need sound bites of like, what are some things they can do right now to prioritize being it till they see it. So I like to think of being it till you see it. I've made it bold, executable, intrinsic, or targeted steps that they could take right now.
Don't follow your passion, follow your curiosity.
Oh, I like that. Tell me more. Like what, Why not follow the passion? Because a lot of people go, oh, do what you're passionate about and you'll be like rich forever.
Because I think it's hard for people to sometimes know what you're passionate about. Like as a kid, I've always been artistic. And so it's natural I ended up designing jewelry. But, there's a lot of people who are like, I don't know what I mean. I played this or I did that when I was younger. But you won't know what you're good at or passionate about until you kind of test it out. Like, you know what I mean? So
you're 100%, because whenever I hear those like memes about follow your passions and you'll be happy forever, it's like, if you are on the depths of something, like you just got out of a divorce or you just lost your job, it's really hard to feel passionate about anything.
Yeah. Yes.
So I appreciate your honesty there. That is such a good one. I think might pique people's curiosity.
Like, I'm always surprised when someone's like, oh, I love pole dance. I'm like, how did they find pole dancing? They obviously were curious about it.
Right. That's amazing. That's such a good one. Well, Tina, thank you for that. I think everyone can start to be more curious this week and just follow those and see where it leads you. And then do us a huge favor, screenshot this, tag Iron Strong Fitness. Is that what your handle is? Iron Strong Fitness?
Oh, Iron Strong Fit.
Iron Strong Fit. Excuse me.
Yeah.
It's in the show notes, everyone. Messy action over here. Screenshot this, tag Iron Strong Fit and Beit Pod, and let us know what you're being curious about. Let us know what your takeaways were, so that not only can Tina hear what you loved about this, but other people can as well. And that's how we get this podcast out. And until next time, be it till you see it. That's all I got for this episode of the Be It Till You See It podcast. One thing that would help both myself and future listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a review. And follow or subscribe for free wherever you listen to your podcasts. Also, make sure to introduce yourself over at the Be It Pod on Instagram. I would love to know more about you. Share this episode with whoever you think needs to hear it. Help us and others be it till you see it. Have an awesome day. Be It Till You See It is a production of As the Crows Fly Media.
It's written, produced, filmed, and recorded by your host, Lesley Logan, and me, Brad Kroll.
Kevin and Belle at Disenyo handle all of our audio editing and some social media content.
Our theme music is by Ali at Apex Production Music, and our branding by designer and artist Gianfranco Cioffi.
Special thanks to our designer Jaira Mondal for creating all of our visuals, which you can't see because this is a podcast. And our digital producer, Jay Pedroso, for editing all the video each week so you can.
And the Meredith Kroll for keeping us all on point and on time.